Hello and welcome. The purpose of this video is to review some topics from the chapter on proportions, which is chapter 6 in Math 054. So let's start with a problem on unit rates with decimal answers. For all of these, I encourage you to pause the video and try and work the question yourself first. See if you get the same answer that I do. For this question, it tells us that a color printer prints 14 pages in 4 minutes. How many pages does it print per minute? So looking at this, I want to see how many pages it prints per minute. So I'm going to take the number of pages and divide that by the number of minutes. And for this particular question, you may notice that the directions say to round our answers to the nearest hundredth, which means we're expected to put this as a decimal. So 14 over 4, I know I can simplify that fraction, which is what I'm going to do first, to 7 over 2. And then I know what that works out to be as a decimal. The final answer is 3.5. So we have 3.5 pages per minute. Okay, second question tells us that it takes 86 pounds of seed to completely plant a 9-acre field. How many acres can be planted per pound of seed? So this time, since it's asking for acres per pounds, the 9 has to go in the numerator and the 86 is going to go in the denominator. 9 over 86, and this question does allow us to use our calculator, so I found that this is approximately 0.10465, keeps on going from there. But what we're interested in is rounding to the nearest hundredth. So there's the tenths, there's the hundredths. So that's what I want to round to. Look to the next place value. Since 4 is less than halfway to the next number, we're going to round down, and our final answer is 0.10 acres per pound. Next question is a word problem on proportions. Some of these are easier, some of these are a little bit harder. I picked a harder one. This says the ratio of union members to non-union members working for a company is 3 to 2. So just from right there, I'm going to write myself a little ratio. I'm going to say union to non-union is going to be 3 to 2. And now we're given, if there are 140 employees total, so that tells me that I want to start thinking about this number in a total. So since there's 3 parts union and 2 parts non-union, I can conclude there are 5 parts total. This wouldn't exactly work because of statistics, but if we were to just take 5 employees, they would most likely be 3 union members and 2 non-union members. Okay, there's 140 employees total. What we want to do is we want to find how many non-union members work for the company. So the only piece of information we're given about the actual numbers of employees is this 140 employees total. So what that tells me is I want to set up my proportion to involve non-union members and the number of employees in all. My ratio is going to look like non-union members over total. So as far as the proportions, I'm going to be using the 2 and the 5. And then for my actual numbers, I'm going to be using 140 and X. Non divided by total means we have 2 non-union members out of 5 members in all, for every 5 members. Since the 5 has to do with the total and it's in the denominator, this 140 also has to be in the denominator. And I'm just going to put an N for the number of non-union members. Now our proportion is set up. We can solve proportions by cross multiplying. So I will multiply diagonally across this way, get 2 times 140, and then that equals multiplying diagonally across the other way, 5 times n. So we have 280 equals 5n. Since the 5 is multiplied in, I'm going to divide it out. So divide both sides by 5, and we get 56 equals n. There's our answer, 56 non-union employees. This answer should make some kind of common sense because there's fewer non-union employees than there are union members. Last question from chapter 6 is similar triangles. Similar triangles have the same ratio of sides. We just need to compare like to like. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this smaller triangle, kind of mentally rotate it so it's the same orientation of the larger triangle. So sketching this out, I see x is on the hypotenuse, so that means the x goes right there. And do you see how this 2, if we flipped it over, that 2 would end up on that side? It's really critical that you get the right side. And I'm going to compare this to our larger triangle, which I'll sketch out right here, even though it's literally right there. So if I compare the hypotenuse to this right-hand side, it would be x over 2, and that ratio equals the same two legs, or the same two sides of the triangles of the larger triangle. So we did hypotenuse, which is 7.5, over the vertical right-hand side, so that's 5. Again, we have a proportion, so again we can cross multiply. X times 5 is 5x, 2 times 7.5 is 15. So we have 5x equals 15. Let me copy that down right here. Since the 5 is multiplied in, we divide it out. X equals 3. A really good double check here is recognizing that since the hypotenuse is bigger than the leg, we would expect x to be bigger than 2. That concludes the video for proportions in chapter 6. Let me know if you have any questions.